You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and we hope that you are having a great day wherever you're listening to us from. We hope that you are enjoying your summer. You are listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, and we are very excited that you are tuned in today. And we want to remind you, if you are not subscribed, right, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. If you are a new listener and this is the first time you are listening to us or coming across our podcast, we want to tell you welcome to our podcast. We hope that you are encouraged today. We hope that you are blessed and motivated and uplifted, right? And that you just, subscribe and come back every week, right, when we have our episodes, and check out our old episodes, right? But like I said, we hope that you are having a great summer. Eddie, how are you feeling? How's your summer going so far?
The summer is just going way too fast. Yeah. Honestly, the fact that a lot of students have already started school.
Crazy.
And my kid's about to start school in like 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And my kids, both of them, are actually gonna go to school. It's very like, where did the summer go? And we did a lot. I think that you have some summers that are a little bit more like chill, and like the days are like longer and more lazy, and then you have other summers that you're a little bit more intentional with. Let's go here, let's do this, let's get the kids involved in that. And that was very much our summer. And I think that because of the fact that we had so many activities going on to keep the kids entertained all summer, it just made everything fly by. Like, it's crazy that it's fall. People are putting out, I saw in Dunkin' Donuts, the pumpkin spice stuff is already out and about. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, stores already have like fall decor out, Halloween stuff, it's already in full effect. But I agree. I think, and it's weird because this is a summer that's very different for me, right? Because I'm mainly at home, right, with our newborn, and we're just kind of chilling at home or going to my parents' house, her parents' house, much more relaxed, right? Normally in the summer, we'll travel somewhere. We'll kind of take a vacation. We're doing a lot of activities. That hasn't been the case this summer, but I feel like it's still going fast. And to think that in just, about a week, I'll be returning to work. And it's kind of just like the teachers first, right? That first, few days. But it's crazy how time flies, right? And again, sometimes it's like when you're busy, it goes by quick. When you're not busy, it's just as fast. It's weird, you know what I mean? But definitely still enjoying it, still taking out the time to like go out and do different things. I mean, like the other day, we started playing tennis. Like, we were just like, hey, there's like tennis courts here. Let's just try it, right? Yeah. And, that was really fun. So like, getting opportunity to do like new things and different things when you have the time, right? When you have a newborn, like in between moments, has been really fun. So for sure, summer is here, but it's also like winding down, right? And it's September pretty much, and with September not only comes a new school year, some people like take the new school year of your parents, I feel like a restart, right, with like new routines, or your kids go back to school, so it's kind of like all of that. But for the church world, right, or the Hispanic, like the Spanish church world, right, Labor Day weekend in September is a very big weekend for camps, right? And there are a lot of church camps, youth camps happening, or retreats. And we wanted to take this episode to talk about, how does one prepare for a camp or retreat weekend, right? Like, if you are just a youth, if you are a young adult, if you are an adult, a leader, right, putting something together, how do you prepare, right, in many different aspects, right, for this camp weekend and for this retreat? Because the truth is, there are individuals who prepare extensively, whether it's themselves, right? Mentally, spiritually, they get everything in order, what they're going to, from what they're going to wear when they're over there to, what they're going to do and the activities, and, they're praying and setting up time to like ask God, what do you have for me? And then there are those individuals who don't think about camp till like the morning of, and they realize, oh my goodness, I have to pack, I have to do this, I have to do that. The bus is coming in 2 hours, or all of that. So, let's have a conversation about that. How do we get ready for a retreat?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different avenues you can like approach this as. I think we should start off as just like a camper, someone who's just gonna go to camp. They have no responsibilities. Their responsibility is just to be there on time, to not miss the bus. If they're getting driven there through the bus, or if they're getting driven, whatever. And I think that I look at all the years that I was going to camp as just a camper, and how I was always excited about it. And I would create checklists because I wanted to make sure I had everything. Yeah. So it was like, all right, I need an outfit, the outfit I'm going to go in, the outfit for the nighttime service, the next day outfit, that next day outfit service and stuff like that, outfit for that service and so forth. Then it was like, all right, I need my essentials. I need a blanket. I need a pillow. I need toothbrush. I need soap. So you got to do a whole like checklist of things. And usually I was packed the day before. Like, I wasn't like OD crazy like those people that I was like, oh, my maleta's been packed for 2 weeks. Like, you bugging.
Right.
But at least the day before, you pack everything. I use my checklist. I'm a little crazy. I think, people usually don't use checklists, but I would, just to make sure that I had everything. And I always pack the fan. Every year I take a fan with me, because you just never know. Right. There's years where it's brick city. It's freezing out there.
And the thing is that we're in New York, and our camps that we usually go to are in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And it's like super hot during the day most of the time. But at night, it gets really chilly when you're like in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, it's true. And then, so I would always rather be cold than be hot. Especially when you're like changing and you're like getting ready and it's like hot and sticky. So I famously always bring a fan with me to camp. But I think that there is something that I always also do, which is that I'm always in constant conversation with God about, Lord, you know what I need this weekend. God, whatever area of my life that I need to speak to me on, or Lord, I really looking to be blessed, or I want to be used, help me be of service to somebody else. Maybe I can share a testimony with someone that'll impact them, or maybe in conversation. And, that's something that I am always thinking about as a camper as well, where it's like, Lord, I need you to bless me. But I'm there. So if I can be of a blessing to somebody else also, create those opportunities for that to happen as well, which I think is very important. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you can show up without ever having a conversation with God about, Lord, I need X, Y, and Z, and God can still show up for you. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's a difference when you do things intentionally and you understand that it can be fun. There's going to be a lot of activities that's going to be really cool. There's going to be a lot of things going on. But I also understand that I'm going there for spiritual reasons as well. Yeah. I think it's like the really big key thing. I think a lot of times the younger youth that go, if it's a youth camp, or people that are like newer, that have never gone to a camp before, whether it's a men's camp or women's camp or whatever, don't have expectations because it's an experience that they haven't yet experienced. But for people that have gone before, people that are a little older, I think it is important. Anybody really, it's important to like be like, God, like, speak to me, bless me. Like, you do something crazy, whether it is I could be a witness to somebody else getting blessed or whatever. Those are the conversations that I would have with God leading up to the camp. Yeah,
I agree. And I think that, the whole idea, and I think we've spoken about this before, about a camper, I think what's special about it is the idea that you're in a different environment, right? Mm-hmm. You're taken out of your everyday routine. You're taken out of your normal atmosphere and environment. You're going to a place with the intention of, right? And that's where the next, point is, right? Like, what is your personal intention or motive in going. Because honestly, there are individuals who do not like camp or who may not be interested in a camp, but for whatever reason are going. Right? They may be underage, so their parents are telling them. If you're an adult, you just feel like you kind of have to go, right? If the other men of your church are going, or if it's a family camp or a retreat, or maybe you're even a leader and there's a year where you're just like, there are a lot of things happening in your life that you may not just feel like going. And for whatever reason that may be, you still show up and you still go. So what is that purpose? What is that intention? What is your motivation in going? And I think that, you know, for some individuals, they may not have one, right? Like they just go because they have to, and it's just like they're just there. Now, there is a gift and there is a blessing in just being present and just going, right? But there also, I believe, is like a greater blessing or a greater opportunity when you go with a purpose, right? And one of the things that I found is if there's a theme to the camp or the retreat that you're going on, connect with it.
Yeah.
And that could be a hard thing, right? Because a lot of times you may hear a theme and it may just be very, whether it seems basic to you or generic to you, or like, I've heard that before, or I know that story, right? Yeah. I'm looking at your shirt and it says Waymaker, right? Yeah. Like that could be a theme. And it's like, oh my gosh, I bet you the theme song is going to be Waymaker, you know? It's like, so go get over all of that and connect with the theme, right? We trust that the leaders who kind of, you know, put the camp together came up with the theme based on either the needs of the people or God spoke to them or the Spirit led them to put this together. So you going, there is a reason you are going, and there's a reason why that theme is that theme. And you'd be surprised at how, for face value, you may not connect with the theme. You may not see what that has to do with you and your life. And I don't, you know, kind of necessarily resonate with that theme. You'd be surprised the minute you go to prayer before God to ask him, Lord, this is the theme of the camp. What are you trying to show me this weekend? What are you trying to reveal to me? What do you want to do in my life based on this theme? So if there's a verse, read that verse. If there's a story, read that story. If there's something that they're putting out, whether it's a video, a song, or something related to that retreat or that camp, connect with it, right? Because there's something with that theme or with that title, or even if it's something small, that I believe that God wants to speak to you through. And I think it's so often easy to just dismiss it, disregard it, and it's just like, I'm here for camp, I'm here for the social stuff, I'm here for the chill time, I'm here to get away and escape and not deal with my kids or not deal with my parents or not deal with my friends. I'm just here, out here in the woods, and I don't really care what's happening, right? Connect with what is happening, connect with the theme, connect with the purpose and intention that maybe your church has in the camp, but also now what is your personal intention, right? What are you trying to get out of this camp weekend?
No, absolutely. I think those are all great points. I think that on another thing that I think is very important on camper perspective is to be social. I think it's so important to take advantage of the fact that you're going to have people around you that are not part of your inner circle. Whether it be that they're from other churches or they're from other towns or whatever. And I think that it's very important to build those connections. You know, a lot of times we have our little group of friends, and they're our friends. They're our fun people. They're the ones we want to play volleyball with. They're the ones we want to sit next to at the conference. They're the ones we want to sit next to during lunch because it is familiar. It is comfortable for us to do that. But I do think it's very important that throughout the weekend, you do build relationships with other people, and that you just make those connections. I think it's important to be able to share your experiences with other people as well, because it is through those conversations that you come to realize that something that you think you were the only person that was going through, only person that was experiencing, you're not. There's other people that are going through the same thing too, or have gone through that also, and can give you advice and can help you through certain processes and situations in your life. But if you just stay stuck in, now these are my two friends, these are the only people I'm going to connect with, these are the only people I'm going to stay with, I feel like you're depriving yourself of a blessing and an opportunity to get something out of what camp provide you with. Because, you know, the services are awesome and God moves in that way 100%, but God can also move in different ways that is through those connections that you have with other people.
Yeah. I agree. And I think you have to, like you said, it's like you have to get out of your comfort zone, right? It's comfortable to stay with people you know. It's comfortable to kind of be introverted if that's what, you know, the type of person you are. But again, when you go to this type of weekend or when you go on this retreat, make it, you know, your priority to expand, right? Make it your priority to maybe talk to someone, even if it is just one person, or be involved, right? Maybe you're not a huge talker, but, you know, you can pull up a chair and kind of be there with the group, and at least you're there and you're listening and you're kind of engaging with other people. Because like you said, a lot of times, you know, we feel isolated, we feel alone, we feel like we're the only ones going through what we're going through. And it's only when you actually have interactions with other people that you find out, oh snap, it's not just me. Other people feel this way too. You went through that, and not all the time do you have to like reveal or tell on yourself, right? But you just know mentally, like, wow, like I could really apply that to this area of my life, or I could really apply that to what I'm going through. But that only happens when you take that step to talk to other people. And we've spoken about that. You know, we had a whole episode on being social, and for some individuals, it's hard. For some individuals, they don't feel the need to have to be social. They're completely content, satisfied, and complete on their own with their two people, with their circle. But sometimes it's necessary, right, to put yourself in a situation where you're not with the people you know, right? And I encourage you that if you are, you know, being invited to a camp and you're kind of debating because you don't know anybody, or because your friend isn't going or your friends aren't going, that you still go. That you still show up. Absolutely. You know, because I believe also when those invitations that may seem random show up, right? And it's like someone just happens to reach out to you like, hey, you know, I want to invite you to this. And especially when it's obviously, you know, church related or ministry related, I believe that a lot of times God will set that up for you to be there. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's something that I can relate to. My first camp that I ever went to at the age of 18 was done through a different church that invited me through someone else that from my church that was going. And that was the first time I ever had a camp experience, and it blew my mind away. Then I remember at around let's say 21 or 22, once again, I had a friend who wasn't even part of this church and their organization, but he was a musician that got invited to go play at a camp. He was like, yo, you want to come with us? We have this camp going on or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'll go or whatever. Mind you, I am one of the least social people out there. Just out of naturally, I am very like, I'm good sitting in the corner chilling by myself. But sometimes you have to challenge yourself to put yourself in those situations to go. That's the camp that you guys wind up going to also, which is also the camp that me and my wife first started like, oh, okay, something's going on here or whatever. And I think that those are opportunities that you miss out on building friendships, possibly gaining relationships, meaning your true love. You never know at these places because you deprive yourself from going because, oh, I don't really know anyone. Yes, is it uncomfortable? It can definitely be uncomfortable. I was in a cabin full of dudes that I didn't know. I knew them, like knew of them, but they weren't my friends. Like they weren't people that that I socialized with, but I was put in a position where it was like, well, you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to go out there and challenge yourself to be social because it is important to put yourself in situations that sometimes feel uncomfortable. And it's not to put yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable that it can jeopardize your safety or can jeopardize your mental health. Like that's not what we're telling you to do. But there are times where you have to put yourself in situations where it's not the most comfortable, but there is a great benefit to doing it. Whether it is to being in a place where God, like you said, is giving you an opportunity to be blessed by him, or whether it is in a place to build relationships and connections to people that you weren't even on your radar. You didn't even know these people were going to be. Then all of a sudden there's this click that happens where you build friendships, you build bonds. There's people that build lifelong relationships, build ministries together, build partnerships together because of a chance encounter where they wind up going to a thing where they weren't thinking about going, and then all of a sudden it worked out.
Yeah. And, you know, as you were talking earlier, I was thinking when you were saying about bringing your fan and all of that, right? You know, there are some individuals who don't like camping or like that camp environment. They don't like the woods. They don't like cabins, right? Like they're like hotel people, right? There are individuals who love lakes and love, you know, swimming in lakes or kayaking or, you know, sports. And then there are those people that rather be indoors and air conditioned, you know, reading a book, right? So it's, you know, there's a lot of preferences and there's a lot of needs that when people are putting together a camp, you kind of have to meet or try to meet, right? Having that diversity of whether it's diversity of activities, diversity of, you know, how we're, you know, having our services or what's happening, right? To kind of try to appeal to the different types of people that go to a camp, right? You have something to say?
I'm gonna let you go ahead.
So where I'm getting at is you may not like everything that is being done, right? You may go to a camp and it's like, I hate being outside. I hate mosquitoes. I hate bugs. And that's, you know, where we have our church camp, right? It's outside, right? There's like overhang, but walls, you know.
No mosquitoes, by the way. I was just thinking about that. We've never been attacked by mosquitoes out there.
Right.
That's great.
So it's kind of like, you know, there may be some people that, you know, they get itchy, like all these different things, right? Personal preferences. You may not like everything that is done at a camp.
Yeah.
You may not, you know, like enjoy every single activity. You may not like sleeping anywhere outside of your own room and your own bed.
Yeah.
You may not like showering anywhere else. You may not like, we said earlier, talking to people. You may not like being outside. You may not like, you know, even a type of, you know, I want to say, church activity, right?
You may not like the fact that there's a schedule and you have to be up at a certain time and be here at a certain time.
Yeah. I don't like the fact that we're doing this prayer at this time in the morning because I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that we do small groups because I hate being, you know, like in a small group where I have to talk or feel pressure to talk, you know? I hate when, you know, I'm in a worship service and there's a worship team singing as opposed to one person. I'd rather hear one person, right? Like you have all your preferences. Get over all of that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where you have to make the decision to know, regardless if it's a church camp, if it's your job, your spouse, your children, there are going to be things that although you love them, you love going there, you love being a part of that, they're going to be things that you don't like, and that's okay, right? Don't let that one thing or those two things or three things or even 10 things that you don't like about something keep you from having an experience. So while you are there, right, don't just focus on the fact that there are mosquitoes everywhere and you're getting bitten. Just don't focus on the fact that you're out in the woods and that you can get Lyme disease. Just don't focus on the fact don't focus on the fact that there may be bears nearby, right? Don't focus on the fact that they've been singing, you know, a song that you don't like, or the preacher that they got is not really like your style, or like the speakers aren't like that good, right? Kind of don't focus on all of those things the whole time. You know what I mean? I know that it can be easy sometimes to be distracted and easy, especially when, you know, sometimes the points you're bringing are valid, right? Sometimes the things you have and the opinions you have, you know, are valid, and it's like, it's true. You're right, you know, but it is a job that you need to work, right, on in order to get the best experience and outcome of that weekend.
Yeah.
You know, you can get distracted by all of those things that you don't like and miss out on the one thing that could have blessed you, or that one thing that could have been that answered prayer, that answered petition, that one thing that could have shifted your mindset the whole weekend, you know? So just keep that in mind. There are going to be things that you don't like in a lot of areas of your life. Get over those things.
Yeah.
Don't let those things rob you from an experience. Don't let the things you don't like or your own preferences, you know, rob you of having an experience with God, or steal your joy while you are there. Because a lot of times, again, when you go on these retreats or camp weekends, this isn't just like a vacation, right? So when you go on vacation, it's like a lot of times everything works out, like it's super easy, everything's convenient, right? When you are planning something spiritual or something church related or something ministry related, there's always attacks, there are always spiritual warfare, there's always something that happens that tries to get you out of that focus. Don't let it happen.
Yeah, and I think it's important for you to understand that this camp was not centered around you. That's just the fact. Unfortunately, there's hundreds of other people that are going to be there as well that have different needs, that have different likes, that have different preferences.
Yeah.
And that's why you hope that the leadership team creates a diverse program, because of the fact that there are people that don't like small groups, but then there's people that love and thrive in small groups. There are people that don't like sports, and then there's other people that's their jam, you know. So that's why you have to pray that the leadership team does create a diverse program that kind of hits certain people, but there's no way that they will unless you got really lucky, it'll hit every single thing that you particularly like. There's no way that's going to happen unless the God aligned it very nicely for you that way. There'll be something, the food. You'll be like, oh, I don't like the food. It's not seasoned the way I usually season it or whatever. Now, all of a sudden, because the food, that breakfast that morning wasn't up to par what you thought, your whole day is ruined. Like, no, you cannot put yourself in that mindset because you just, like you said, you're screwing yourself over and missing out on opportunities where God can bless you and speak to you and you can have fun and all this other stuff because one thing went went left and you didn't really like it.
And that's happened before where the food has been amazing some years and then other years it's like, what are they serving? And it's not necessarily like for our camp specifically. It's like catered food, right? Like we're not cooking it. And it's almost like we look forward to the nighttime when we're cooking our own snacks and stuff because it's like that's where we can like eat food that we actually like. But we've had those years where it's like the food is not good and you're just there like, I paid so much money, right? That's another thing. There is a sacrifice. You are paying money. Either someone sponsored you and they had to pay it and it was like, something on their part. But you are investing in this weekend. You know what I mean? So to get the most out of what you've put in and what you've invested, just, financially and just getting yourself there, enjoy it. You know what I mean? And don't let those little things distract you and rob you from the blessing that God has for you that whole weekend. I think another fear or complaint that people may have when it comes to these retreats is that it happens every year. Right? So this isn't something that's like you look forward to it because it happens every 5 years. And like, there's like build up and anticipation, because it's like it's been so long. We're so excited, to get there again and do this again. Camp and retreats usually happen every year. Sometimes it's like the same weekend every year. And if you are believers like us in a way, right, that have been doing this since we were kids, you've been doing this for a long time, right? If you are a leader that has been putting a camp or retreat together, you've probably been doing this for a long time. And one of the, I believe, wonderful tactics that the enemy uses is telling people that it's just going to be the same thing as last time. It's just going to be the same thing as last year. Or the enemy will bring to mind that one horrible camp experience you had, and that's like your story for life, right? So there will always be things that the enemy will use, and one of the things I believe, it's just that it's going to be the same thing. It's the same old camp, it's the same place, it's the same group of people, right? Sometimes if you're a church putting a retreat together, sometimes people just limit it to their own church, and it's like you're with those people all the time, multiple times a week, and you're gonna go to a camp again with the same people, right? Maybe there's no guest speakers and it's people from their own church, right? People look at that like it's even worse because I want someone new, I want someone different, right? Just because there may not necessarily be something new happening in the program, in the agenda, in, the location, the venue, or just the people, doesn't mean God can't do something new. And that really comes about with your perspective. What is your perspective and expectation before going on this retreat, before going on this camp? Are you expecting it to be what you've always experienced? Are you expecting it to be what you've always, encountered it to be? Or are you awaiting and expecting something new and something different? Because God will meet you based on your level of expectation. If I'm there showing up thinking that God is going to do what he's always done and it's just going to be another, weekend hype and then we go back to normal, that's what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
But now if you go there with an expectation of, God, I know you're going to do something different. God, I know you're going to meet me in a different way, in a supernatural way, in a way that I need most. God, you know what I need and I know you're going to meet my need. God will meet you at that level of expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think that, listen, you are listening to the voice of someone who has gone to every kind of camp that you can go to. I've been to camps at resorts. I've been to camps in El Campo of the Dominican Republic. I've been to camps who are like really like camping style in cabins. And then I've been in camps where they are camping style, but they have therapeutic mattress and air ACs that you can control. So I've run the gamut. I've been in camps where it's ran by directives that have thousands of youth. And I've been to camps where it's ran by directive that has 10 youth. You know what I mean? So I've been through it and I've experienced everything everything, but it really is about the mentality. As a camper, as someone that's going, you really have to put yourself in the right headspace. You really have to put yourself in the headspace of the food may not be great, but I'll just eat whatever they have that I do like, and I'll keep it pumping. Maybe the small group conversation was on a topic that that's not where I'm at in my life. I don't really need to hear that at the moment, but the rest of them did, so it's okay. So I just got to keep it pumping. Let me give something, an advice or something that I can apoyar in the conversation. Maybe the theme that weekend is a theme that you're like, I've been to 3 camps that have had this theme already. Regardless of it, it's really about your mentality. You go in open-minded, like, Lord, like I said in the beginning, Lord, I would really love for you to bless me, to minister to me, to let me experience you in a way that I've never experienced you before. But also, God, I'm here. Use me and let me be of a blessing to other people, and I think that it's, pivoting just a bit to talk on it from a leadership perspective. There's a couple of things that I think is very important. Leadership wise, y'all should have been planning this a year in advance. That's number one. The idea that, especially if this is something that comes every year, having camp every year to me, and I know there's a lot of people that differ with this. There's people that are like, oh, I hate it. I don't hate it. What I do not like is that it's happening every year, but you don't prepare accordingly. That is something that bothers me. You already know this is happening, so let's get the wheels pumping and let's go. Let's be diverse with what we're doing. I think that if, as a leadership, if you felt from God that the theme of that weekend was going to be rompiendo las cadenas, whatever it was, whatever theme it was, then I think it is your responsibility to make sure that theme is concurrent through everything you're doing. Why are you giving a theme to a camp and none of the activities have to do with that theme? It makes no sense. The preacher barely touched the theme of the camp. It's like, so if God really gave you that theme as something that you felt was going to minister to the youth, you have to make sure that that is a common thread conversation in everything that is happening, in the games that are being played, in the conversations that are being done, in the decorations that are being putting up, in the visuals. You really have to come through with that. I think it's super mega important, because for that, don't put a theme, but it's going to be lo que el espíritu diga. That whatever happens, it happens. I also think that is very important for you to every year analyze what worked and what didn't work. Also, be understanding of the crowd. There's years that we've had camp where the campers skew older. It's a bunch of 20-year-olds that are going. And then there's other times where it's a bunch of 15-year-olds that are going. It's different conversations, it's different forms of activities, it's different things that you have to do. So you have to be conscious of that. And the only way that you can pivot with that is to have that information as early as possible. That's why, going back to campers, if you're going to camp, submit your application and give your deposit. Because it helps the leadership understand how many 14-year-olds we have, how many 25-year-olds we have, so that we could prepare accordingly. And then leaders use that information you have to create a program that is diverse, that is, I was going to say entertaining, but it doesn't got to be entertaining. You got to have fun stuff. Engaging. Sorry. Engaging is the correct word to use.
But entertaining.
You wanted to give. You don't want to go and just this is a puppet show.
Right.
It's a bunch of 25-year-olds. This is not what it's supposed to be. So I think that there is a strong responsibility on the leadership team to create a weekend where the campers leave knowing, this year was good. They really did their thing. I'm looking forward to the following year. I think that when, as a leadership team, you drop the ball, you have so much more work to convince them to come back the next year, because of the fact that you did not put in 110% effort in creating what was your responsibility to create. You knew this was on your lap. This was in your hands. This was in your warehouse to put this together, and you didn't do it accordingly. So then now you have to convince people next year, oh yeah, last year was kind of, but this year we're going to do so much better. That's hard to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, as a leader or a leadership team or directive that's putting on a retreat or a camp, maybe you're part of the board that does that, or you're part of the team of people that, puts it together. You also have to realize you're creating a space where you are allowing, right? Or not allowing, but you are creating a space that's fostering the environment for God to speak to your people, right? Your youth group, your men's ministry, your women's ministry, right? Your church. And you want to make that experience as accessible as possible. You want to make that experience as distraction free. You want to make that experience reach its highest potential. So that may require for you, like you said, to plan a year in advance, where this camp just finished, and because we're still on this high, and because we're still on this, level of just excitement and energy of what God did, we're starting to think about next year. And starting to think about what worked in this camp, what didn't work, what do we need to improve, what do we need to change, how can we enhance this experience, or enhance the worship, enhance the word, enhance the conferences or breakout sessions, right? There's always something that can be improved, right? But you want to create a space for God to speak to the people, right? And there's so many different ways that God can do that. There are many different ways that God speaks to people. There are many different ways that people connect with God. And like I said earlier, when you go to a camp, it's almost like there's so many different opportunities for you to meet with God, whether it's during a prayer time, whether it's during a small group, whether it's during a breakout session, a big conference, a service, the worship, the message, a conversation with a leader, even during a free time period or a lunch, right? Where God is able to speak to those individuals, right? And I think that, even just looking back for me, some of the highlights of, the camps that I've been to have been those moments where God has clearly spoken to me, right? Where God has, given me that answer, or helped me with something, or given me clarity on something, or just encouraged and motivated me through something or through someone, right? Those are the things that really stick out to me. And I believe that a lot of times individuals who go to these camps, they're in need of something. They are wanting to hear from God. They are wanting to, hear God, speak to them. And at the same time of, our leaders creating an environment where God can speak, I believe that even in those environments and atmospheres, we also have to be alert, and we have to be vigilant, right, with what God is doing, with how, things are moving, because we've also had experiences and have seen where sometimes the enemy tries to manipulate, or the enemy tries to kind of like sneak in, and, will use, unfortunately, sometimes just wrong prophecy, right? Or false prophecy, or individuals speaking out of certain emotions, right? And this even happens not only with leaders and preachers and things like that, but sometimes even with the campers themselves. They get very emotional. They get very in their feelings. They're hugging, they're crying. And in that emotion and in that, feeling, they start saying stuff to each other, or they'll start encouraging each other, right? Kind of like, God wants you to blank, or God is saying blank. And in those moments, you have to be very careful. Is God really saying that? Or is that the emotion and the feeling you're being kind of consumed by at the moment? And you want the best for your friend. You want the best for that individual, but maybe what you're saying is not necessarily what God has for them in that moment.
No, I agree with that. I think that is a whole can of worms. And there's so many different directions you can go into with that. I came across this post earlier this week.
But maybe we can make this a 2-part
Okay,
podcast.
Then listen. So then we're about to enter part 2.
We're gonna stop right here, and you're gonna have to come back to find out what that post was that you saw. This post changed your life, transformed your life.
We gotta see. I didn't say all of that, but we gotta see.
But listen, come back for our next episode where we're gonna continue this conversation on retreat and camp and God speaking to us, right? And how oftentimes there could be some mishaps when God is not in that picture. So definitely thank you for tuning in today. Come back for our next episode. Be sure to subscribe to us so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. And like we said, come back because you don't want to miss part 2.
Yes. So thank you once again for tuning into this episode of the God Life Culture podcast. That's God Life Culture. Until next time,
see ya.
For part 2. Bye.